Welcome to our new podcast, Real Estate, Affordable Real Estate in Africa. And I don't know who you are. As you're listening, as you're watching, maybe you're an African in the diaspora in Europe, somewhere else looking to invest, or you are a person who is aware and believe in the dynamic market of Africa and real estate. Maybe you're not even an African, but you have a heart for the people in the continent, especially those who live on the lower ladder maybe of society. Or you actually live in Africa, in Nigeria, Kenya, in one of those beautiful countries, or you're just interested. Doesn't matter. Welcome to our podcast. And we will tackle topics like cross-cultural investment, how to make your money work while empowering others. What are the advantages of modular housing to the technical ones as what is fraction ownership, how does it work, rent to own, and so on. So we'll have a conversation, we tackle different topics, and I am happy to not do this alone. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a real podcast and conversation. I'm happy to welcome Grant Smith. He's from the UK, and you're also joining us today from the UK. If I'm not mistaken, you are the founder and the CEO of the Hand in Hand group. You've been in real estate many decades. You wrote a book, The Accidental Social Entrepreneur, which talks a lot about what we are also talking about, the heart behind that. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to joining our conversation today and the next weeks and months.
Thank you, Jonny.
I am also happy to welcome Mr. Nissi Ekpott from Nigeria, but joining us from South Africa. He is a business expert in Africa. He has started many businesses, is advising businesses, and I like him. Introduced me as a big thinker and strategist. He calls himself an Pan-Africanist, if that's correct, the word. And if that word didn't exist, he made it up, but that's what he is. And he's also a founder and CEO of GrowMyHome, a real estate platform, has a heart for real estate. And also thank you, Nissi, for being with us today and for the coming episodes.
Thanks, Jonny. Good to be here.
My name is Jonny Müller. I'm from Germany. I'm also currently based in Germany. Having been around the world, I'm excited about the potential of real estate and how it ultimately can serve people and make their life better. I'm your host here, but it would be great if you could have a conversation. And what I love about both of you, Grant and Nissi, is that with all your experience you have, and you have a lot, and you're always willing and eager to learn. And that makes a great conversation. So please feel free to also ask questions, go deeper, and maybe even disagree. So we have a real conversation going. Today, our first episode about affordable real estate in Africa. Today is about the dream. And both of you are experts in your fields. And you could sit in big corporate offices and talk about big amounts of money. And you still sit in offices and you're still talking about big amounts of money, but a bit different. And there's something else driving you than actually just those numbers or what the pictures that comes up when we think about those corporate numbers. And Grant, let's start with you today. On your website, it says, our commercial response to poverty. And Hand in Hand Group has worked in Kenya responding to poverty. It also says that you're giving access for the poorest. And you talk about 9 million children are sponsored worldwide and contrasting it to business. So that's quite an interesting take for a normal real estate developer. So I'm asking the dangerous question, because they can go long and deep. What is your dream and vision for all of that? What is driving you? Tell us.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonny. And as you might appreciate, the vision has effectively evolved and grown over many years of interaction in East Africa, but latterly in Kenya. But the one thing that I would love to do, and the point on the website that you've picked up is that it's a commercial response to poverty, is that there is a role for the NGO donor world, but I also believe business has a massive part to play, which is can lift people out of poverty, but is also sustainable, and that's key. As in the West, we certainly talk about donor fatigue, and in a sense, you can understand it. But my dream, which unfortunately I keep being advised cannot happen, would be to you look at those 9 million children that are being sponsored every day by well-meaning people who are donating. Let's say it's $30 a month. They sponsor those children for 14 years. At the end of the 14 years, you've got one educated child. And the person who's donated, they don't see their money again. And that's fine. That's what a donation is. But what if you swap that into an investment? That actually you invested $30 a month in a company that paid their construction workers, in our case, fairly, so that actually the construction worker who's been paid fairly can afford to their own school fees for their children, that they don't have to go to a donor organization, that they, in their own dignity, can pay their school fees. And at the end of 14 years, you get your money back with a return. That's my dream. Now, unfortunately, I've been advised by so many people that that dream cannot be fulfilled. The FCA regulations means that people investing $30 a month are classified as unsophisticated investors. And unfortunately, there's been so many people out there who have scammed and basically brought the reputation of small investment down. But if we could find a way through that somehow to encourage to do on a stable platform that you invest regularly into dignity, into sustainability, so that what is actually being achieved is that you're lifting a person, instead of being paid pathetic wages, is being paid what I always refer to as a fairer wage, so that they then can take their own children to school and pay their own school fees. And you might then be thinking, well, Grant, surely if you're paying people better than everybody else, then it must be making the cost of construction more expensive. No, it's not. Because in the UK, we're very common to this. We pay people according to what they do. In Kenya, that's an unusual concept. People get paid a day rate. And what we actually do is we structure our construction projects so that people get paid according to what they do. And what that means is that a hardworking person can earn double or treble the construction day rate in Nairobi. A lazy person will earn nothing. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help that person. So for you asked me what my dream is, that would be my dream. And as we sit here right now, I don't believe that dream can be fulfilled. But you never say never.
Thank you very much, Grant. And I would love to. I mean, I first have to introduce Nissi one more time because because you said something that will always create a response. But I know Nissi for quite a while now, and you said it cannot be done. That's something that actually animates and triggers Nissi to say, "Let's see what this is about." Nissi, you have done several businesses. You're on several boards. You founded the platform GrowMyHome together with others. The slogan is making real estate affordable. And you talk about impact investment. And you kind of say, no, 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 no. I have a similar vision. But before you share your vision, or maybe you kind of answer to Grant, because I kind of think you say, well, let's see what it can't be done. And it might tie into the vision that you have. So please, let's start with the response and then go into the vision you have in all of that. And I know you have many, but let's talk about that one.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, you used to live in South Africa. Now you lived in Germany. You went there by an airplane. If you could fly in the air to Germany, that was humanly impossible. Anything can be done. Mankind lives in space right now. The population of the Earth today excludes a bunch of people who now live in space. So I think if we could solve the problem of creating a house in space, I don't see why we can't solve the problem of solving homes for everybody. So yeah, I would actually invest in Grant's vision because people say it can be done.
That would be the sole reason for investing, is because
That's right. That's right.
it
Because
can't
people
be
say it
done.
can be done. Yeah, because all things are possible. But yes, Johnny, thanks. So Grant is a quantity surveyor by training. So he is one of the guys that looks at the real estate industry at close range. I tend to be the guy who looks at the industry from 30,000 feet. away. So that's why I don't see the problems. I see the big picture. So before this program, we were joking. We were talking about unrest in communities around the world, different countries with their different issues. And I said it's largely an economic problem. And then it manifests in different ways. And I think real estate is one of the solutions. And why do I think real estate is one of the solutions? I mean, even practically, it's the subprime crisis, the world crash in 2008 was triggered by real estate. It's usually one of the biggest sectors in any country. Housing is the biggest asset class globally. It's one of the primary needs. Everybody needs it. So if there's a shortage of it, and you invest in that shortage, you probably will affect everybody. So my passion is about using it as the platform to be able to stimulate economies, and countries and well-being. It's, each time I look at the real estate cycle again, it's one of the things that touches everybody. I mean, cars are very important to community, but everybody doesn't need a car. You can operate in some European cities for your entire life and you don't need a car. And you operate at optimum, but you can't operate in that city without a house, or else you would be homeless. So many other things except food, maybe. There are a few things that you can't live without, but housing is one of them. So the question then always is, how do we flip the thinking? I really loved what Grant said, and I think I actually got connected to Grant because he shared this is impossible dream, and I liked it. So that tells you that, Grant, you have some followers. So I think that if we do this long enough and if we practicalize it, what our vision is to create or demonstrate a workable model that would make sense to business until it becomes the norm. I think that might be where we would then prove that this dream can be brought down into real life.
Thank you. I know there's way more dreams we might tap into in the future. And I also want to add that part of the dream or part of that what we're talking about is already happening. It's not that it's a completely pioneer area. It is to a certain extent, but there's people out there already doing that, already handling the financial regulation. There's impact investment. So there's things happening. And but we are trying to connect that in our way. And Nissi, maybe you can. Grant talked about donations and fair wages and business and commercial and all of it. Usually, when I talk to people, and you also know that, it's like there's no connection between those two. It's either or. Maybe can you also, maybe in your words, because our visions align there, it's like, how can this be brought together for people even watching and listening there? I wanted to invest, I didn't want to donate right now, or the other way around. Help us to bridge it in your words.
Yeah, perfect, Johnny. I think you're very right. People see it as an or. And even the vehicles that you do these things in are kept separate and apart. But I think it can be an and. So, for example, we say to NGOs or stuff like that, you can invest a portion of your income. So instead of giving away everything purely as a donation, you could take 20% and try a model that would bring back the money. And a donation is money you're giving away. You could give money away at once, but you could give money away over time. And what would be a better donation if the money you were giving away continued giving away because it was recycling? So if you gave away a sum, but that sum was given away in such a way that it could multiply and give more away, it would actually be more like an eternal donation than, so that's one thinking. Obviously, there are certain instances where business is not viable. You just can't do business. There are some certain locations, there are types of buildings, stuff like that you can't do profitably. There are groups and classes of people that really have to be given the lowest of the lowest. You need to donate to them to at least give them enough time to move from the lowest rungs and come up to a place where they can be productive. So that's a fact, and that's where the donations and the givings cannot be scrapped away. But then there always has to be this point where you make it viable, and that viability is key. Otherwise, you never really, really solve the problem. You just create a cycle of dependency. So when both sides see that they need each other, the business world needs the donor world to lift people from the bottom to a place where they can become viable. And the donor world needs the business world to take people and create viability so that there is revenue for the donor world to work and to transform societies. I think it kind of shifts, thinking when they see that they actually are and should be working hand in hand, not as one or the other.
You just said hand in hand, which is beautiful. And Grant wanted to say something because you just said the right word. And I mean, Grant, let me just say something because I also heard that word. And Grant, you're sitting in both sides. You are on the you have a organization which is a charity, and you are there involved. Or your wife is strongly involved. You have been involved there, but you also now we're talking more about the commercial side. So you have hand in hand even in your name. So tell us a little bit about this hand in hand and what are the challenges and where do you see the possibility to actually overcome them?
So yeah, thank you, Jonny. But I would just like to go back to something that Nissi
Please,
said
please
about
do.
how you grow the money. And we actually do have an example. You mentioned that I've written a very good book, The Accidental Social Entrepreneur, which is the best book that I've ever read or written. But somebody else read that book and he came to me and he said, I want to bring 5 friends together and we want to invest in a project that you're doing in Kenya because we see the vision, we see what you're trying to achieve, we see the social impact. We're not all about the financial return. Financial return is important, but we actually understand that how to make money work. And one of those investors, what he did was he gave us a significant sum of money and said, I want that to go into a rent to own fund. And what that facilitated was we built a block of apartments, 35 apartments, and that money facilitated 7 apartments to go into a rent to own fund. And what he meant was that we actually are charging rent a little bit higher than the rent you'd be paying if you were just renting the building. And we charge an interest rate on the capital that is outstanding. So we're charging interest on this investor's money. And as people pay their rent, so that's going back into the rent to own fund. And so where we started with 7 houses, or 7 apartments, we're now up to 9 apartments. So what you're constantly, the more apartments that is in the rent to own model, the more revenue you're generating every month. And therefore, the quicker you can get to the point of putting a 10th or an 11th apartment. And yet the actual money that was invested hasn't actually, we haven't gone back to the investor to ask for more money. The money has grown through the way that we are handling it. And so we're in a position where what rent to own means, and I know that we're going to look at this in more detail in another podcast, but fundamentally, if you rent it for 6 months, at the end of 6 months, you have grown some capital. And therefore, instead of at the end of 6 months, you say, okay, I want a bigger flat now, or a bigger apartment or a house, I need to move on. And the normal rental system is you just move out and you're gone and you get your deposit back. Here, you are growing capital, which then facilitates you to move further into the housing market. So I just wanted to say how that you can grow pots of money with imaginative ways of looking at it. And now I can't remember the question that you actually asked me.
That's totally fine. And I like that. And maybe we don't have a clear course here, just have a somewhere where we're heading. And I like that we're not doing a philosophical conversation about real estate in general. That's not what we're about. I know we like that, all of us. We like to talk about the big picture, but I like that you came to a real example already, Grant, because in the end, it's not just a class in the university about something that could be and that is an idea. So let me just move to Nissi. Nissi, Grant talked about the project that they did, and you've done stuff too where you already saw some of that coming through, some of your vision, a glimpse of your vision, or like something that shows in the right direction. Is there something, a project you or an encounter where you stood somewhere on a, I don't know, some of these moments are just interesting, where you realized, yes, that's what we want, and I'm happy about that. For some people, it's an encounter. For some people, it's looking at a spreadsheet. I don't know what it was for you.
Sorry, John, if I understand your question very well, I think for me it's been many things, both encounters, looking at spreadsheets, etc., visiting projects.
Tell us a few poignant ones where you realize, yes, maybe that what comes to mind, that where you think this is the vision, this is the path I'm pursuing, and there's signs that it's going to work somehow.
Yeah, okay. So over the year, I mean, there's examples of this, and I've seen some of them in the little. I mean, we're still in early stages, so the little we've done, but we've also seen other people doing that much further. I mean, like Grant was one of the kind of examples. The story he told us, it's like, yes, somebody's thinking through this. But each time we build a house, for example, where we're building for third parties, I would watch what some of our workers do, and I would sometimes ask them questions. And I would find out that we have workers who work for us repeatedly, and they take a bit and a piece of what they get from us and they build their own house. So we're building a big 6-bedroom duplex for a client, and the worker is working for us doing the tiling. And each time he finishes some form of tiling for us, he's building his 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom home. So I could see the connection, I could see the connection. And I said and so the wow was, wow, if we could be able to create models where this guy was able to buy into a house in bits and pieces. So you know how they do it in some African countries. They build a house, it's half complete, and then they move in and they live in there and they do it in bits and pieces. And it takes 20 years or so. I've seen people take 20 years to finish their house. I have an uncle who actually took 20-something years to finish his house, But if we could have had, so the wow to me was, wow, if we could have had that house, and instead of having to build it and live and grow in an uncompleted setting, he would actually have to pay a piece of it. So each time he goes and does his tiling, he comes back and he pays a piece of the house. We would have given him a house. He would have had a better quality of lifestyle. His family would have had a better quality of lifestyle. And it would still be viable. He would pay for it. I mean, so that, I don't know, that's one of the kinds of experiences I've seen day to day that makes me know, wow, this works. It's possible. It's actually being done, only that it's being done in a different way. And what we basically are trying to do is to reshuffle the model to make it done in a tidier manner that adds value to all parties concerned.
I want to tap into, it's the first episode, there's people watching and listening, and they might wonder, I'm not sure yet where you're heading, or why should I continue listening? Why, it's just so get me excited, guys. So if I would be the listener, Grant, Nissi, why should I stay tuned? Why do you want me? What can I contribute? What can I get out of it? Just let me be part, or how can I be part of that? What's in it for me is that's kind of the very blunt question, but I guess you know what I mean. Get me excited to stay tuned.
So many people are looking for investments, and certainly in the UK, because our inflation is low, our investment levels are quite, or the returns on investment are quite low. The challenge between a rich person and a poor person is that a poor person spends everything that they get. A rich person doesn't. And what that means is that the rich person is effectively taking money out of the economy. So therefore, what we are proposing in our relationship is that that person who has spare money to invest is that, yes, you look for a financial return, but there's a far bigger picture that you can be a part of. There's a far bigger impact that you can have than simply making a financial return, which, to be honest, you probably don't even need to make. But let's leave that aside. That's just my little hobby horse. That you can invest, you can make a return, but you can impact a child's life. You can impact a mother and a father's life. You can impact and see sustainable change in people's lives, because it is downright immoral for somebody to live in a tin shed. I'd never understand how a person in the winter in Kenya, when it's raining, doesn't end up with all sorts of diseases and illnesses living in a cold, damp tin shed. That is just not acceptable. And there are so many ways that through people that have integrity and have a purpose for making a difference in people's lives, that you can invest and really make a difference. And it is not a donation.
Wow.
Wow.
Is there something to add?
Yeah, I had to leave that to sink in. We had to leave that to sink in a bit. And but yeah, I mean, Grant, thank you so much for your passion. And I think it's always nice to have our combination. You from the one side trying to eat this elephant, myself from the other side trying to also eat the same elephant. Yeah, from a different perspective. I mean, having grown up in Africa, I must confess I didn't really grow up in a tin shed. But I had many people around me who grew up in tin sheds and visited families and friends. So a tin shed was not that a shock to me if I went into a tin shed, because you grew up seeing that as normal. But what stirred me up and why would I need to continue would be, how do I get this guy out of a tin shed to be able to create sufficient wealth that in future he is able to own a proper home, but even finance people that own proper homes. So our models has tried to think through that. So that's why we have some of the models we have, which we will discuss, fractional ownership and stuff like that. So I'm saying to someone who wants to continue, you could actually be part of helping somebody create wealth, and then you create wealth for yourself, but you also have sub-wealth creators, what a business would call a franchise, something like that. I mean, yeah, so that's one reason why you could go on. You could create wealth, you could help other people create wealth, and you could have social impact. You just feel good about doing something. I mean, like you said, Grant, about being able to help transform societies. And then if you're an African in the diaspora, if you're like me, each time you see a nice piece of infrastructure abroad, you just wonder, how could I take this from London and put it in my hometown? Just this morning, I was walking through the city center somewhere in Durbanville. I actually found myself praying in my heart and saying, Lord, I want to do this in the city center in my rural community. So the question, if you're in the diaspora like myself, would be, how could I do that? Being part of this kind of thing would be one way, because every time you build a piece of infrastructure, you change a community. So if you're part of building 20 houses, you actually turn that rural area into a nice city center, 100 houses or stuff like that. I'm sure you would like to go back home and walk around the streets of your community, and it's well paved and it's well done. And it also gives a feeling of self-satisfaction. It's also part of the hierarchy of needs, that you get to a point in your life where it's not just money you're looking for, but you're looking for self-satisfaction and recognition. So we can also solve that need for you if you want. And that could be in your home country, but that could be in any other country. It doesn't have to be in your home country.
Well, I want to be part of that, but I am already. I am already. That's why I'm sitting here as your host, because I'm excited about that. Excited about that it actually can be possible, that there is the commercial and the social comes together, and it's not separate. We don't have to be nice in the charity and be ruthless in the business. It's actually there. It's a holistic approach, being a Christian, having a holistic approach to life and not segregate everything. That really excites me about this whole idea and concept. And that it's possible, that there is pathways, and we will discuss some of them along the way, and the how to and what exactly, and what are the hindrances and obstacles, because it's not just an easy road. Nothing that is going to be impactful in a big way is easy, otherwise people would do it already. So this we will discuss along the line. We are almost wrapping up our first episode, because actually after this I shouldn't have said anything. There was so much passion and good stuff in there. But Nissi, Grant, I always like having last words, some not from me, but like you having last words as to Anything else you want to add on this episode? We talk about the big picture, and we will always return to that because it drives us. Anything you want to add or to ask? We have a few minutes left.
I remember many years ago going to a fundraising event for a particular organization. And at the end, the person had basically described that the budget for the following year was going to be double the budget for the previous year. And what he said was this. He said, if you want to be part of that excitement, then join us. He didn't say, if you put your money in the pot, then we can go there. He said, that's where we are going. And if you want to be a part of it, then join us.
Right.
And I thought that was the first time I'd heard it the other way around. Normally, when you go to fundraisers, it's you put your money in and this is what we can achieve. No, we are going to achieve this. And if you want to be a part of the fun, then you come in. And I think that's what personally I'd want to finish on. If you want to look at a dynamic way of investing, dynamic means that there is more than just one outcome, that there is outcomes perhaps you never anticipated. In actual fact, the reason the book's called The Accidental Social Entrepreneur is because there's things that we've done that we never actually set out to do. And that's if you do nothing, then you won't achieve anything. If you do something, there's no telling what could happen.
Awesome, Grant. You make me feel like saying, yes, I want to be part of that. Most fun that was part of the conversation. But yeah, I mean, I attended the Project Management Council of South Africa's meeting, and they said something very fascinating. They said the amount of housing needed in the next 40 years is more than everything that has been built in the previous 200 years combined.
Wow.
So there is a need, out there. So if you want to be part of meeting this great big need, join us. And obviously, the fastest growing continent in the world is Africa. I think they say by 2050 or so, 1 in 4 people on the earth will be an African. And so you see a lot of companies around the world and countries are running to Africa. It's not necessarily because they really love or don't love Africa. It's because it is the growth markets. Businesses always need a place that is going to grow because there's going to sell. The businesses also know that they need more houses. They'll sell more doors, more windows, more cars, more drinks, whatever. So they are going there. So yeah, if you also want to be part of a growth story, why would you like to be part of a growth story? It guarantees that you can move from poor to rich. And it also guarantees that your children and your grandchildren can start off life at a better place. So if you want to be part of this big growing thing, like Grant said, join us.
Not much to add. Please join us, continue, come with us on that journey. It's not always the easiest. There's risks, there's adventures, there's satisfaction, all of the things said above. And I'll say thank you, Grant and Nissi, for this first episode. We'll meet again in the next one. Stay tuned and looking forward to our next conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Jonny. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Nissi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.